Hello everyone, welcome back to Kenh Review. Wishing you all good health, lots of joy, and happiness with your loved ones. After many ups and downs, today we're diving into a brand new episode of Jack and Tien, promising unexpected twists and deep emotions. But this time it's not about our young couple. A big question arises. What does Jack really think about the feelings Mr. Dung has for his mother, Mrs. Loy? Will our dutiful son accept his mother's new relationship? What will Mrs. Loy, a woman who has worked hard all her life, think and decide about this affection? And how will everyone involved deal with it? Truly something worth looking forward to. And you, what do you think about love in the later stages of life? Should they take the next step? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. The meeting at the cafe between Jack and Mr. Dung took place in a somewhat formal and meaningful atmosphere. Mr. Dung, normally calm and reserved, had taken the initiative to invite Jack out to share something he wanted to say, showing that it was an important matter and he needed Jack's understanding. When Mr. Dung candidly expressed his feelings for Mrs. Loy, admitting that she is a wonderful person and that he had feelings for Jack's mother, the atmosphere became slightly awkward but full of sincerity. He chose to speak directly with Jack, Mrs. Loy's only son, out of respect and a desire to receive Jack's approval before taking things further. Jack's reaction was remarkable and showed his maturity. Although he was very surprised by Mr. Dung's confession, he did not show discomfort or disapproval. On the contrary, he expressed happiness and appreciation for the feelings Mr. Dung had for his mother. Jack sincerely shared about his mother's hardships, sacrifices, and his wish for her to find someone to lean on, someone to bring her happiness in her later years. His affirmation that he did not object to what Mr. Dung had just said and fully supported the relationship between him and his mother was a powerful and meaningful endorsement. Jack put his mother's happiness above all, while also showing full respect for her decision, saying it would ultimately depend on her. He also recalled the mutual respect and understanding built between him and Mr. Dung during their time working together, clearly separating work and personal matters. Mr. Dung must have felt relieved and grateful for Jack's understanding and support, saying that with Jack's words, he now knew what he needed to do. Jack continued to emphasize his wish for his mother to be cared for and happy, once again affirming his support. The conversation then shifted to work as Jack curiously asked about Mr. Dung's recent changes in current job. Mr. Dung openly shared that he had stopped working on construction sites, started taking private projects, and eventually established his own company. This change explained the difference in his appearance that Jack had noticed. Jack reaffirmed that his support for Mr. Dung's feelings for his mother had nothing to do with status or work, but came from understanding and respect for the person he had always known. Both men expressed their desire to find happiness and stability at this stage in their lives. The meeting ended with mutual understanding and agreement. Jack showed himself to be a dutiful, mature, and selfless son, ready to support his mother's happiness. Mr. Dung, in turn, received the important approval from the son of the woman he loves, paving the way for a new relationship to blossom. After the honest conversation and receiving Jack's support, Mr. Dung seemed to have released a great burden from his heart. His inner thoughts revealed gratitude and even a bit of admiration for the young man. This Jack is still young but already so thoughtful. Jack's understanding and approval not only brought joy, but also gave Mr. Dung motivation and confidence to pursue his own happiness. His silent vow to not let Jack down showed that he was aware of the responsibility and expectations Jack, and perhaps Mrs. Loy as well, placed on this relationship. He did not want to betray the trust of someone who had generously given him his blessing. With the silent permission of the swan, Mr. Dung no longer hesitated. He decided to act immediately and called Mrs. Loy to express his feelings. This action reflected his decisiveness and seriousness toward the relationship. He didn't want things to drag on in uncertainty. He wanted clarity. The call to Mrs. Loy was straightforward and sincere. "Are you free? I have something I'd like to talk to you about." Although he didn't reveal the topic, his tone and the fact that he offered to pick her up showed that this was an important meeting. His offer to come get her or send her the location further demonstrated his thoughtfulness and desire to create a private, comfortable space where he could open up his heart. Mr. Dung was very serious and ready to take a new step in his relationship with Mrs. Loy, carrying the hope of finding happiness in the later stages of life. After many storms, Tien finally found peaceful, joyful moments again at her familiar farm. The image of her playing with her pets, caring for every little corner of the house, carefully cleaning and tending to the plants, not only showed her return to daily life, but also revealed a soul that was gradually healing. Her attention to her animals, out of bran already, out of food too, maybe I'll ask Jack to take me to buy food for you guys later, reflected her thoughtfulness and natural love for animals. She was no longer alone. She had these little companions to care for and to bring joy through simple tasks. Tien, cleaning by herself, cutting branches to make sweeping easier, or collecting grass to feed the fish, showed her initiative and genuine enjoyment of manual work. The farm wasn't just a place to live, it was a space for her to express herself, to reconnect with nature and with life. Even though she felt a bit of regret seeing the flowers fall after the rain, the flowers were blooming beautifully, but the rain made them all fall. Her next thought, now I'm going to buy a watermelon and head to Jack's house, lit up with joy. This thought reflected a renewed sense of optimism and love for life. She was no longer trapped in a sorrowful past or anxious about an uncertain future. Instead, she actively sought out happiness and wanted to share good things with someone she cared about. Wanting to bring a gift to Jack's house was a natural gesture, expressing her sincere affection and desire to nurture their relationship. This entire scene painted a completely different image of Tien, a girl who had rediscovered inner peace, regained her joy, and now walked confidently toward a brighter future beside the one she loved. The storms had seemingly shaped her into someone stronger, someone who knew how to cherish life's simplest, most precious moments. While Tien was enjoying peaceful moments and preparing to bring a small joy to Jack's house, Jack was at home with thoughts of his own and an unexpected visit. He began by reflecting with selflessness and filial piety on his mother and Mr. Dung, sincerely hoping they could find happiness together in their later years. Even something as simple as calling his mother to ask if she'd be home for dinner showed his care and closeness to his family. However, the quiet atmosphere was quickly interrupted by the sudden arrival of Uncle Dung, an old acquaintance. The conversation between Jack and Uncle Dung started off casually, exchanging greetings about health and work. But soon Uncle Dung got straight to the point. He asked Jack to design a house for his youngest son, who was preparing to get married. This request put Jack in a somewhat uncomfortable position. He honestly shared that he had stepped away from engineering for a while, a subtle way of saying he had paused his professional work after the complications related to the clinic and recent events. Uncle Dung, trusting in Jack's talent, through Tu's recommendation on the inter-village bridge project, earnestly expressed his hope for Jack's help. He shared how he had saved money his entire life to build a home, and that finding a skilled, trustworthy engineer was crucial. His words, "If you can't help me, I don't know who else I could ask," carried both deep expectations and a bit of pressure for Jack. Faced with Uncle Dung's sincerity and trust, Jack couldn't bring himself to refuse outright. He promised to think about it and follow up, and also asked for details like the location and scale of the project, a villa of about 200 meters, to get a rough idea. His agreement to visit the site showed that he was seriously considering the proposal, even if he still had some hesitations. The conversation also revealed a touch of the past when Jack mentioned that Auntie, Uncle Dung's wife, had been his math teacher, adding a warmer and more personal connection between the two. In the end, Jack didn't make an immediate decision, but asked for a phone number to stay in touch, handling the situation with tact and professionalism. He promised to arrange his schedule and discuss things in more detail later, even mentioning the possibility of signing a contract if he accepted. This showed that despite his initial reluctance, Jack remained a responsible person, willing to help when he could, especially for those who trusted and believed in him. This unexpected offer might also be a chance for Jack to return to the design work he once loved and excelled at, after a long pause and personal challenges. After the meeting with Uncle Dung, Jack sank into his own thoughts, feeling a mix of surprise and pride about his connection with engineering. Even though he had put the profession on hold, opportunities and trust from others continued to come his way, reaffirming the skills and reputation he had built. Right at that moment, Tien appeared, bringing with her a refreshing presence and a touch of everyday awkwardness as she asked Jack to take her to buy cat food. Her arrival felt like a fresh breeze, pulling Jack out of his work-related thoughts. He happily accepted her request and even took the initiative to invite her to the construction site. This invitation was more than just convenience. It was his way of wanting to share a part of his life and work with the woman he loved, creating a deeper bond. Tien excitedly agreed. For her, accompanying Jack and seeing him in his role as an engineer held a special meaning. She recalled the first time she saw Jack, an engineer in a white shirt and helmet, a figure so different from her world back then, yet one that left a lasting impression. Her words revealed admiration and sincere affection for Jack, not only for who he was personally, but also for his career. She understood the importance and precision of his design work, and she respected the trust that others placed in him. Jack also shared memories of the first time he met Tien while working on site, calling it an unforgettable moment. Their conversation brought back fond memories and deepened their emotional connection. Jack reaffirmed his decision to bring her to the construction site as a way for her to better understand him and the work that was once his greatest passion. The mood between them became light and joyful. The worries and tension of the past days seemed to fade, making room for peace and the excitement of a shared journey ahead. Jack prepared to hit the road, while Tien waited with a smile on her face, ready to discover another side of the man she loved. The trip to the construction site with Jack gave Tien a fresh experience, one where she witnessed a different side of the man she loved, a talented, serious, and highly responsible engineer. The image of Jack wearing a helmet, confidently riding his motorbike through rough roads, and then handling work matters professionally with Uncle Lýn, the site manager, surely left a strong impression on her. At the site, Jack clearly demonstrated his role as both designer and supervisor. He quickly assessed the situation, pointed out critical issues in the construction, such as managing water seepage, clearing mud, and accelerating progress in areas at risk of landslides. His technical knowledge and firm, clear instructions showed solid experience and expertise. Uncle Lýn expressed respect and trust in Jack's capabilities, carefully listening and taking his input seriously. While Jack was busy working, Tien quietly observed, likely sensing the passion and dedication he poured into his job. When Uncle Lýn mentioned that Jack had handled many important projects, rural bridges, irrigation systems, her admiration for him only grew stronger. After completing the site inspection, Jack didn't forget the original purpose of their trip, taking Tien to buy food for the cats. He thoughtfully suggested stopping by a cafe to rest, showing his subtle care. During their brief conversation on the way back, when Tien commented on how meaningful the bridge was for people in remote areas, it reflected her empathy and appreciation for the value of Jack's work. Moments like Jack telling Tien to hold him tightly because of the rough road, or her delight in riding with him, brought back old memories, creating a warm, romantic atmosphere. No matter how busy or stressful his work became, Jack always made space for kindness and attention toward Tien. This trip was more than just a site visit. It was an opportunity for them to share more about their lives, their work, and to strengthen the bond and understanding between them. The meeting at the familiar cafe, where Mr. Dung and Mrs. Loy first met, along with Ms. Hai, held a special meeting. Mr. Dung had intentionally arranged this meeting with a clear purpose: to confess his feelings. His direct words, "I want to talk to you, would you let me be your boyfriend?" showed his seriousness and sincerity, as well as his awareness of their age and desire for a clear, honest relationship. He didn't hesitate to share about his past, his late wife, and how he had focused solely on work until meeting Mrs. Loy, who brought new emotions into his life. Mrs. Loy received Mr. Dung's confession with appreciation and honesty. She admitted that she felt affection and recognized the care he had shown her. However, she also shared her concerns and emotional burdens. Her biggest worry was Jack, her only son, who had yet to start a family. She still felt the responsibility of a mother, wishing to see her son settled before thinking of her own happiness. Jack hasn't started a family, so I still have things to take care of. I'd feel more at peace once he gets married. Her gentle refusal was not a rejection of Mr. Dung's feelings, but rather a request for more time, a way of prioritizing her child's future first. Mr. Dung responded with understanding and patience. He didn't show disappointment or push her. On the contrary, he praised her kindness and the effort she had put into raising Jack. He even shared something important. He had spoken with Jack and received his full support. This likely lifted a major emotional burden from Mrs. Loy, knowing that her son didn't object and actually supported their relationship. Even so, Mrs. Loy remained cautious. She wanted more time for them to get to know each other better, to see how life might unfold before making a final decision. This was a realistic and mature mindset from a woman with life experience. She didn't want to rush into a new relationship, but instead wanted to prepare and be certain. The conversation unfolded in an atmosphere of respect, understanding, and sincerity. Mr. Dung bravely expressed his feelings, and Mrs. Loy openly shared her thoughts and hesitations. Although there was no official acceptance yet, Jack's support and Mrs. Loy's openness hinted at a promising future for this relationship. They still needed time, but the signs were positive, suggesting a later-in-life love that, while delayed, would be deeply meaningful and well-deserved. The unexpected encounter at the cafe between four people, Jack, Tien, Mrs. Loy, and Mr. Dung, created an interesting and somewhat meaningful situation. After their visit to the construction site, Jack and Tien were looking for a private place to talk, but they happened to run into Mrs. Loy and Mr. Dung on their own date. At first, Jack and Tien's appearance may have caused a bit of awkwardness for the older couple, especially when Tien quickly noticed Mr. Dung giving flowers to Mrs. Loy. However, the atmosphere soon became relaxed and natural as they all sat down to chat. Jack explained the reason for taking Tien to the site and then to the cafe, showing his care and desire to lift her spirits. Mrs. Loy and Mr. Dung also shared about their meeting, creating a cozy, family-like ambiance, where relationships were slowly being revealed and embraced. Though Tien was technically an outsider in the older couple's date, she remained respectful and friendly, even sharing her impressions of the cafe. The conversation revolved around everyday topics: Mr. Dung's work, his fondness for the cafe, and his closeness with Ms. Hai's family. These small details helped the characters understand each other better and build connections. Mrs. Loy's gentle advice to Tien, "You should tell Jack to bring you out for drinks more often. It's good to relax," showed her care and her wish for Tien to be happy and at ease. However, the peace didn't last long. Jack suddenly received a work call that needed immediate attention. His decision to leave quickly, though he clearly wished he could stay longer, showed that professional responsibility was still an essential part of his life. He promised they would have another chance to sit and talk, showing his respect for his mother and Mr. Dung. Though brief, this unexpected meeting held great meaning. It offered a chance for all four to be together in a warm setting and quietly affirmed Jack's acceptance and support of his mother's relationship. At the same time, it highlighted how busy and burdened Jack remained, signaling that while love was progressing, life still held many challenges ahead. Tien, though slightly disappointed that their private time was interrupted, fully understood and respected Jack's work obligations. It turned out that the reason Jack hurriedly left the table with his mother and Mr. Dung wasn't due to sudden work, but rather a thoughtful and considerate gesture. He wanted to create a private space for his mother and Mr. Dung to talk and express their feelings in the most natural way. His initiative to invite Tien to another corner of the cafe, though slightly awkward and excused at first, revealed his maturity and his deep desire to support his mother's happiness. Once they were alone, Jack opened up to Tien about his morning conversation with Mr. Dung and shared his heartfelt thoughts about his mother's future. He expressed his hope that she would find a strong and steady companion in her later years, someone to lean on and confide in. His words, "I truly support my mom and Mr. Dung," once again confirmed his complete approval of their relationship. He saw Mr. Dung as a good, trustworthy man based on their past time working together. Tien also expressed her agreement and warm feelings toward Mr. Dung, Although their interactions had been brief, she had sensed his kindness and helpful nature. She wholeheartedly supported Jack's wish for his mother to find happiness. The conversation also gave Jack a chance to express his affection and care for Tien. He recognized that she might feel lonely at the farm, so he wanted to bring her along to lift her spirits. His sweet confession, "Wherever I work, if Tien is with me, I feel excited and happy to do anything," showed that her presence was a major source of motivation for him. Yet Jack didn't forget the responsibilities and practical worries in his life. He mentioned that his mother still hoped he would start a family and have children so she could be at ease for pursuing her own happiness. This showed that even though he supported his mother, he still felt some of the burden of her expectations. He also gently reminded Tien about her upcoming health check, showing his attentive care for her. His words, "I just want you to always be happy with me, just like I want that for my mom," summed up his simple yet profound desire: happiness for the most important women in his life. The conversation ended with a plan to take Tien back to the farm, closing a meaningful afternoon filled with heartfelt sharing and emotional progress between the characters. Jack's tenderness, understanding, and love were once again clearly shown, promising a brighter future for everyone involved. So it's not just the young love between Jack and Tien. Today's episode also brought us deeply moving emotions from a late-in-life romance, the relationship between Mr. Dung and Mrs. Loy. And the most beautiful part is the wholehearted understanding and support from a devoted son, Jack. Jack not only gave his blessing to his mother's happiness, but also thoughtfully created a private space for the two elders. Meanwhile, his bond with Tien continues to grow stronger through shared moments and mutual care. What do you think about the way Jack supports his mother? Do you think Mrs. Loy will accept Mr. Dung's affection? And do you believe in love at an older age? Kenh Review would love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment below. If these touching stories warmed your heart, don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to keep up with the next developments. Thank you for always being with us. See you again soon.